Welcome to The Village, a podcast focusing on students, staff, and community members that make Village Elementary unique. We are your hosts today. I am William.
I'm Liam.
And I'm Mrs. Evans.
Every month our school is learning about a character trait. If you haven't had a chance to listen, make sure to visit our website, thevillage.usd253.net, for character trait episodes and more.
Today we have invited a guest on the podcast who we believe is a perfect example of this month's character trait. We will learn more about them as a person, and they will give us some tips on how to live a character-worthy life.
This episode will focus on the character trait of perseverance. You can visit the extra content page on the website to learn more.
Perseverance is the willingness and ability to keep going when things are tough. People who persevere show devotion and give extra effort needed to do something despite how hard it is or how long it takes to reach the goal.
Students who successfully demonstrate perseverance may exhibit the following behaviors. They resist the urge to give up and put the time in to figure out solutions to problems. They reframe negative situations and say phrases like, "I'm not good at this yet." They display positive self-talk. They encourage others to finish strong during difficult tasks. They acknowledge their mistakes but use them as opportunities to grow and get better. We will now share another of Aesop's stories with you.
It was a very hot summer day, and a crow parched with thirst came upon a pitcher of water. "My lucky day," the crow shouted, but as he got closer he realized the gigantic pitcher was only half full.
The crow leaned in and stretched out his beak as far as he could. No matter how hard he tried, he could not reach the water.
All of a sudden, the crow had a marvelous idea. He picked up a small pebble in his beak and dropped it into the pitcher.
The water level in the pitcher rose just a tiny bit, so he dropped in another pebble, then another, then another.
The crow continued doing this for a long time. Finally, the water in the pitcher had risen high enough for him to take a drink.
The crow poked his beak and drank from the pitcher until he was no longer thirsty.
That was a very clever crow. It would have been easy for him to give up when he couldn't reach the water, but he figured it out.
I agree. Today we have asked a special guest on to talk to us about perseverance. Please welcome Mr. Delmont. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Asher Delmont, and I grew up here in Emporia and actually went here to Village Elementary School. I work at ESU as a computer systems analyst, and I'm also known in this community as a distance runner.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here.
I'm happy to be here too.
How do you think the story about the crow and the pitcher teaches us about perseverance?
In the story, the crow came up to a problem that it had to solve, and it found an answer to that problem, but it took it a long time to actually make the solution to the problem, each pebble that it had to pick up. I was actually thinking about a saying. There's a saying that goes, a bird builds a nest one stick at a time. And it's kind of similar to this story. But as I was thinking about that saying as well, I realized, if we were building with sticks, we have hands that we can use to do that. But the bird is using its beak. So imagine if you had to fill up this pitcher of pebbles by picking those rocks up with your mouth and putting them in, right? It's even more difficult than we imagined. And so the story is an example of perseverance where the crow or the bird has to do something difficult for a period of time, but then finally accomplishes their goal.
Why do you think perseverance is important?
There's another saying that, good things don't come easy. And so perseverance is how we get to those good things. Sometimes you can do something that's easy, but the good feeling that you get from that is not as strong as when you really work hard and apply yourself either physically or mentally in order to make your goal a reality.
How does perseverance affect your work?
At work, I deal with computers and technology a lot. And there are times where you're trying to get the computer to do something and it's not doing what you want it to do. And a lot of times you don't know exactly why it's not doing the thing that you want it to do. And it takes just a lot of patience and a lot of trying over and over again until either you try enough things that you figure out what worked, or you keep learning new things until you learn the thing that's going to help you solve what you're going to do. So that's kind of how I use perseverance at work.
I have a question. What was your biggest struggle when it came to like computers?
Yeah, so when I started working with computers, I didn't actually have a strong background in computers. I didn't start out in IT. I was actually in human resources working with people. But I got to know the information that our system had about the people that worked at ESU. And so that helped me become, that set me up to be good in the IT field. But one of the challenges that I had was I didn't know anything about like computer programming. And so I had to take the time to learn those things and try, writing things in those computer programming languages. And a lot of times you write something and it doesn't work like the way you expected it to. And so you have to test it and try again and learn new things until the point where it actually does work like you hoped it would.
Mr. Battenfield shared with us that you have completed in several marathons. Can you tell us the process of how you prepare for that and how long distance running helps with perseverance?
Yeah, preparing for something like a marathon really does take a lot of perseverance. First of all, you have to be dedicated to the training. So this is day after day, waking up and going out for a run, which a lot of people don't like running, at all. But to wake up and do it every single day or most days, that takes a level of perseverance. But then to go as far as a marathon, you have to practice running further and further. And again, that takes more time and more dedication to be able to do that. That takes, it actually took years to get ready to do that, because it starts out just getting better at running, and then it gets better at the endurance running until the point where you are able to run, a marathon distance.
And for some of our students listening may not know, how far is a marathon?
Yeah, so a marathon is 26.2 miles. And so I have done, the craziest thing that I've done was actually a 50-mile race.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah, so almost 2 marathons. And that took so much perseverance. Just in terms of the training, there were, on the weekends, I would go run 15 to 20 miles on one day. And then on the very next day, when my body's already tired, I come back and run, 10 to 15 more miles. So each of those runs in itself took perseverance, and then putting them together took a lot of perseverance to try and reach that goal in the end.
I have a question. What was your biggest struggle in the 50-mile race that you competed in?
Yeah. So when I was running that 50-mile race, there were long stretches where I was just kind of out in the middle of nowhere by myself. And, if you're 30 miles into a run and you're tired and no one's around, it's like, what am I doing? Why am I here? But you just keep going. The goal is to finish the 50-mile race and to show that it is possible and that I can do it and I can do it well. And so you just keep that in your mind and keep telling yourself positive things as you're going. And then, eventually I did complete the race.
So I have never, and I'm just going to venture a guess, I will never run a marathon or participate, but I did do a 5K this weekend. I noticed that a lot of people station themselves along the path to cheer people on. They have bands and entertainment. People pass out water. And my sister did the half. And she's like, about mile 10, I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? I'm not like ready to give up. But then there's these people there cheering you on and you're like, I've gone this far, I can make it? Has that ever happened to you in a race?
Yeah, so I have done several large marathons, and so I can remember I was running the London Marathon, for example, and there are crowds, almost the whole race distance, and they're cheering, and that kind of helps keep you going. But then I remember I was wearing an Emporia State racing jersey, and there was one guy, just out there randomly. I'm in London. I don't know anybody else there other than the people I brought with me. And some random guy yells, "Go ESU." I'm like, obviously that was for me. Or, he yelled, "Go Emporia." And I'm like, obviously that was for me.
Yeah.
I have no idea who he is. But that right there was like, okay, yeah, I got to keep going.
Someone across the world knows where I'm from and is cheering for me. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then even, as I was running, I'm, more than 20 miles into the race, my body's tired. I'm like, I just want to be done. I just want to get there. Walking would feel so good right now. But I had a goal that I wanted to meet, a certain time that I wanted to hit. And I thought back to actually a class here. My daughters go to school here. And I thought of that class, thinking about me at the race. I was like, I want to do well for them. I want to complete my goal so that I can come back and tell them, hey, I did this. I was able to get it done like I wanted to. Can you guys think of an example in your lives where you've done something that was hard to do?
I mean, moving multiple times in my life was hard. Leaving friends, not knowing new people.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily physically hard, right? But mentally and emotionally it's hard. And so perseverance cannot just be the physical things. Like, running is a physical, it requires physical perseverance, but it also requires mental perseverance along with a lot of other things in life. And so you're giving an example where you need mental perseverance to stay strong and keep going on things even when things are tough.
I think that's an excellent example. What about you, Liam?
I was playing chess with my friend, and I kept losing, but I kept trying to win.
Have you won yet?
No.
Not yet?
How do you think it will feel when you keep trying and you eventually do win a game?
Like, exciting.
Obviously, you have a lot of perseverance to do all that running, but are there other ways that you use perseverance in your life?
Like we talked about, there's physical perseverance and there's mental perseverance. And so a lot of times, a lot of people come across chances for mental perseverance more often. And that comes in work. We've talked about how I use perseverance at work to try and figure out computer problems and that sort of thing. You can persevere in a relationship with other people, trying to make sure that, you keep a good relationship, that you keep your friends. Even, sometimes you have disagreements with family and persevere through those as well. It really comes down to setting a goal and then making sure that you are working toward that goal in a positive manner.
Do you have any tips for us on how we can have perseverance?
Yeah, I think practice, you can always practice everything. So practicing perseverance. Pick something that you think would be good to do or meaningful to you that might be a little bit hard, and then work toward it. And you have to recognize that the things that do require perseverance, you're not going to get right away. It's going to take time. So you take steps to be able to get there, to finally get to the finish line.
Do you remember a specific time in your life when you had a lot of perseverance?
Yeah, we talked some about running. One thing that I think comes up here is something that may not initially seem like perseverance, but it was actually my first marathon. I was running that race, and I didn't finish that race. And so, again, up front, that kind of seems like I didn't persevere. But really, the goal was not that specific marathon race. It was about being a marathoner, about doing marathon races. And so in that one, I faced some struggles, and I realized that, it wasn't that I needed to finish that race that day because I was having some problems, but it was that I needed to come back and do another one, and do it better. And so I did. I didn't complete that first one, and I said, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do another one. And I came back and I ran the next one, and it was so much better. And I finished, and I was happy about it. And then okay, let's do more from here.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great message for people listening, is that even if you quote unquote fail, or a better way to say it is you don't succeed or you don't meet that goal, then that doesn't mean that you won't in the future. And I see kids, especially like academically, like you're trying something hard and it's very frustrating and you feel like giving up. But, even if you make a little progress or you get it a little closer to the right answer that time, you are persevering, you are making progress. So I think that's an excellent message.
What was your thought process to keep pushing on after that first not finish?
Yeah. So really, my goal in that marathon, my goal was not about that specific marathon. I had the idea that I wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And so in order to qualify, you have to run another marathon first with a fast enough time. And so I was running that first marathon race, and I didn't drink enough water that day, and it was hot outside. And so I got to the point where I was like, it's safer for me to stop and try again another day than to continue running and potentially, hurt myself or do something that's going to take me out of running longer. So I stopped for that day, and I said, okay, but remember, my goal is I want to compete in Boston. I want to qualify for Boston. So that's where I'm like, okay, this marathon didn't work out, but the next one is the one where I try again.
How many marathons or long distance races have you run?
I guess it depends on your definition of long distance. I've run hundreds, if not thousands, of races. A lot of them would be probably 13 miles or less. I've probably run maybe 8 races that would be marathon or ultra marathon distance.
That's a lot. You guys think you ever have any interest in doing that?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Probably not. I'm not trying to.
You're not a runner?
No.
That's okay. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. It's important for you to set your own goals. It's very hard to persevere on a goal that is somebody else's. The goal really needs to be meaningful to you, so that you have that drive that you want to continue, and keep coming at it day after day in order to get there.
How do you teach others to have perseverance?
I think it comes back to helping them set a goal that they're interested in first. Because, again, you have to have that thing that you're interested in, that you want to achieve, and then you just help them come up with the goals in order to get there. So if you have a really big, really hard idea, a really big goal that you want to get to, it may seem almost impossible to get there. But if you break it down into smaller, achievable goals and that you can measure those, then you can start seeing that although I'm not anywhere close to meeting my goal yet, I have made progress from where I was. I have made steps closer. I don't know. I just think of a lot of different sayings. I mentioned the one about the bird building a nest one stick at a time. There's the other saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. It's all about just making a little bit of progress each time. So for teaching others is really helping them find their goal that they want to go with, helping them set those achievable goals, and helping them see the progress that they're making. And then also, anytime that you can help hold someone accountable, so when I was running the marathon race and the person yelled, "Go Emporia," they were a little bit of accountability for me. Like if I stopped right there, he'd be like, "That's not what I told you to do. Keep going." If I would have stopped, I thought about the class that was here at Village. If I would have stopped, then I wouldn't have been able to share my accomplishment with them. And so they helped keep me accountable, knowing that they were interested in the result that I got, that I had to keep going, not only for me, but for them as well. And so holding other people accountable to get to their goals is also a way that I help them learn perseverance.
if you could give one piece of advice, and it can be about perseverance, it can be about anything, what would your advice be?
The thing that comes to mind kind of related to perseverance is also patience, right? Patience is an important character trait as well. And as it relates to perseverance, you have to understand that perseverance is something that takes time. And so you're also going to have to be patient to understand that you're not going to get it right away, but you need to wait for it, but not just idly waiting. You are actively doing something to get closer to that. So just practicing patience as well is a great thing to help, in your lives.
That's a good reminder for me, because I want things, to happen right then. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. I think that kind of wraps things up. First, I want to give a shout out to Chloe and Lily for sharing your dad with us today. And what do you boys have to say to him?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Yeah.